Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and usually in one of these review videos, we look at just one car. But today, we're somewhere that you've probably never been before. So if you've been to Great British Car Journey, you may not know that they have a unit hidden away with over 100 cars, including some that have only just arrived. So I'm joined today by Ian, who is the General Manager at Great British Car Journey, and we're going to have a look round. We've pulled up some of the covers on these cars and we'll show you what's down here. No matter how much you pay, you will never be able to get down here and have a look. This is secret, cut off to the public, but I said to the team, please let me show everybody at home what they're missing out on. So some of these you may have seen on display, some of them have been on the driving fleet, and some of them will be a complete mystery because you will have never seen them on show before. So come on, let's go have a look at some of these cars. For me, there is nothing better than a bit of nostalgia, and I love coming to look at old cars. And in particular, today feels rather special as we get to navigate this incredible collection of old British vehicles, and some of them haven't been seen for a very long time. Although some of them you've probably seen on review on the channel, because down here is where they store all the cars that you see on the Drive Dad's car facility. So when they're out of action, this is where they're tucked away. But this is also home to countless vehicles that are all tucked away, either awaiting their moment in the spotlight within the museum, a bit of tinkering so that they can move up to the unit, and some of them, well, there's not really a plan for them, but this keeps them safe, ready to move on to the next stage of their journey. So whether it's going on display, whether it's coming out for a show, and for me, I think that's such a wonderful thing because there's so many cars that we remember seeing really great examples of that nowadays, A, when did you last see one? And B, when did you last see one in great condition? I'm just going to give a little nod to that Chevette because it's a great example of a car of you used to see them all the time, now you don't see them at all, and when was the last time you saw one in great condition? And one of the things I really like about this collection is that they've got cars not only that I would say are bona fide classics, but things which are maybe at the bottom of their trajectory or close to it at the moment, but are climbing in scarcity and fast gaining in value as well. So there's a great bit of foresight here, as well as that element of looking back. And also, I'm a bit of a sucker for anything British, so stuff like this really hits the spot for me. Now, I want to show you a car, which for me, I've seen before because Ian's got one, but it's quite a special bit of British history, and it's a car which they've only just acquired at the museum. So come on, let's have a look at an Invacar. Now Ian, for anybody who watches your namesakes channel, Ian from Hubnut, they'll be very familiar with this car, the Invacar, because Ian's got Tuk, which is of course the sister car to this one. So this is a very important part of British history, the Invacar. How come it's not in the museum yet?
It needs a little bit of TLC. We've only recently just got hold of it, to be honest with you. So it's one that's on the list to see what we can do with it to get it up and running again and get people enjoy it, because my memory of these was at football matches where they just used to pull in at the football matches, sit by the pitch side and just watch the football out the windows. And I've not seen one for 40, 50 years at least.
Yeah.
Luckily we've managed to acquire one, but like I say, she needs a bit of TLC, but hopefully, you know, she'll be up and running and back to a bit of a former glory in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with this, what's your plan for it? Is it to go on exhibition? Is it for people to drive?
For a start, it'll be, well, if we can get it running, I think it'd be nice for people to drive just to see what they were like in the old days. Initially, it'll just go on display, but you know what we like here, if we can get it running and get people to enjoy it, then we will do.
Now, I think that Ian from Hubnut has done a lot of justice to these, talking about the history and the legacy of the Invacar. But for anybody who hasn't seen Ian's videos, essentially, before we had a proper disability scheme like the Motability scheme in the UK, these were awarded to people as their means of getting from A to B. Now, not a lot of people know that they also did another scheme that ran alongside, and I'm not entirely sure how it worked, but you had these which were issued by the Ministry of Health, but you also had cars like the Morris Minor, which were then also issued under the Ministry of Health. Now, I know this because my own car was issued under such a scheme, and what they then did was, from what I can ascertain from the records within the British Motor Museum is they would then take the Morris Minor, they would have a list, and they had sort of codes which they ran to, and from what I can work out, some of those relate to hand controls, the placement of the pedals, but you'll always know if you're in a disability Morris Minor, if it hasn't been changed about, of course, because the door cards are plain, there's no overriders, the seats are usually on runners, and sometimes you'll see reminiscence of hand controls, and you'll also sometimes see, if they haven't been toyed about with too much, there's a bracket in the passenger front footwell, which is for a fire extinguisher. But anyway, I'm geeking out about disability cars from the 20th century, and that's not what we're here for. So you've got something else, haven't you? An electric vehicle, which is...
Yeah, we've just acquired a milk float. Well, I'm not sure whether it's been re-registered because it's down as an 05 plate.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a bit too new.
It feels very new, but of course, for anybody who lives in the UK, they'll recognise this straight away, the humble electric milk float. And my goodness, it's a real thing that harks back to childhood, isn't it? Seeing these whizzing about, especially if you're up early, and you'd hear all the bottles clinking on the back. And it's funny really, isn't it? Because we were talking earlier about how electric vehicles are really exploding. And actually, there is a place for electric vehicles, but we've had it before, and actually maybe we need to start looking back. Some great ideas, glass bottles, electric milk floats, you know, all these great ideas that really we're just rehashing from the past. But my question, of course, is this going to be heading onto the fleet? Because I so want to drive this.
Again, this is one of those that we're quite keen to get up and running because it is quite iconic, especially in the era now with the electric. You know, to think this technology, what they used to go around this was sort of, what, 50 odd years ago, 60 years ago. You know, it's just amazing. It's sort of done full circle. So this is one on top of the list really to get this up and running as soon as possible. And either get it on display or I'd love to do passenger rides in it or something like that.
Oh, could you imagine all those people that you could fit on the back but chuck a few seats on?
Or drinking glass bottled milk.
It's a really lovely bit of kit, and I think that's one of the great things about the museum is you're not just celebrating those high-end vehicles or the easy-to-find stuff, you're bringing in the worker bees of yesteryear, and I think that's just so important.
It's nostalgia. It's what everybody remembers, and you walk around, you know, and it still amazes me. You walk around the attraction and people are smiling, and you can just hear their stories about, you know, it might be a simple Mondeo or Sierra. But it's their stories and their memories and their childhood, and it just brings a smile to the faces.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think if we get some milk bottles on here clinking around, it'll just bring some memories back on those early Sunday mornings.
Yeah, it's a really good addition to the collection. Right, let's go and have a look at some of the other bits. The weather has been absolutely horrendous lately, which is why I think the roof has given way slightly and there's a bit of water about. I feel ever so privileged to be down here having a look around the cars, and I know that everybody's going to say to me, Steph, which are your favourites down here? And I gravitated straight away towards what I guess you would call the Rover Metro. Technically, it's a Rover 111 SLI. Now, the reason that I love this so much is because it reminds me of my early driving days. My very first car was a Rover 114 SLI, and it was absolutely dreadful, and I loved it because it was for the very first time in my life I could get everywhere from A to B without relying on anybody. I wasn't on a bus, I wasn't on a train or relying on someone's mum or dad, and it was just great. I only had it for a few months before it dramatically failed its MOT with 3 fail sheets, but it was those months that gave me that early sense of independence, and I will never forget that car. It was only a few £100, every panel was peeling, and every single month I had to spend at least £100 on it to keep it going. So goodness knows why I've got such great memories, but it does. And my best friend had one and his mum had one. Everybody had a Metro of this age that I can remember. They were just lining the streets of Lincolnshire, just such a popular car. And so for me, this is really reminiscent, and we talk a lot about memories when we walk through the Great British Car Journey, and so for me this is where my British car journey started. And would I go back? No, I wouldn't, because times move on, don't they, and your tastes change, but it will always hold a space dear in my heart. Now there's another car that you'll probably think is a lot more me, so let me show you this other one, because I bet you've not seen one in ages. It's just over here. And it is this Triumph Mayflower. Now this is a bit of an interesting one because this is a car that I need to be careful not to touch. This is a car that has long eluded me. I've been trying to get one of these on test and it's been so hard. I've not even seen one out in public for years actually. So when I saw this today, this just really made my day. I love the shape on it. I love the almost angular lines that come round in an era where a lot of stuff was very rounded. It's a beautiful car. So for me, this is probably one of my picks of the day, along with the Metro. Now let's have a look at some of the other cars we've got. I thought I would start at the point of this Montego for this little walk around section, because can you believe in 2024 it is 40 years since the launch of the Montego, which is absolutely horrifying because I remember them being such a common street furniture car when I was a child. It just makes you feel even older. Finally starting to understand what people that are a bit older than me always say. Oh, you know, that car was around a lot when I was young, and I'm starting to feel it myself now. But anyway, there's another thing that people always say, which is that cars nowadays look exactly like each other. And looking down this row of cars, which all look so very different from one another, even cars that people maybe don't like that TR7 we've just seen, that Metro in the background, they all look so different. Even stuff that's really commonplace and that was once on every street or on virtually every driveway, they all look so different. They all take a unique look at automotive. They might all get you from A to B, or you hope they do, but they all have their individual style and flair to them. And I think that's something that is so missing in everyday motoring nowadays. Yes, if you look at your supercars or things that are really high end or luxury, they look a bit different. But when you look at your run-of-the-mill stuff, it all looks so samey and just a little bit boring. And it's only now that we look back with a bit of nostalgia at stuff that used to be so commonplace, like the Morris Minor, that you start seeing how different and unique it looked compared to some of the stuff that was around at the same time. I thought I would grab Ian because I was watching him walk round and I saw him lingering by this Granada. So I said, Ian, is that your favourite? So go on, Ian, why is this your favourite?
It's just memories again. You know, it's the old Granada that the Sweeney used to drive around in back in the day when you used to watch old Professionals, the Sweeney, those sort of films. And it just brings a smile to my face, how lovely it drives, how smooth it is, you know, 2.5 litre V6 GXL. So it's just a lovely colour. It's just everything about this car. It's just stunning, to be fair. And then next door to it, you've got the Cortina as well. You know, another blast from the past in the 80s. So mine's not really about, you know, how powerful they are or, you know, how sexy they are. It's just the memories that just brings you smiles when you were a kid wandering around. And, you know, to drive these cars, it's just a blast from the past, if you like. It just, it just brings that smile back to your face.
I think that's the thing, isn't it, is that when you connect with a car, it's not always because it's the flashiest or the most expensive or the fastest. Sometimes it's because it just brings back a really nice memory.
That's it, and that's what, you know, a lot of these are about for me, you know. But I can remember the first time I walked around here with Richard many years ago, and I just walked out of here with a massive smile on my face because, you know, I couldn't remember the last time I saw a Capri or a Cortina or a Granada.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was a long time ago, but it was, I won't say emotional, but it was, you know, the memories came flooding back when I was a youngster in the 80s.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Well, I tell you what, it's been an enjoyable couple of hours rifling through and having a look at all the cars down here. It'd be really interesting to know what you've seen today and has caught your eye and you've thought they definitely need to have a little squidge around in the museum and get it into place. Let us know in the comment section below and let me know if you agree with my favourite car choices. So I had the Metro and I had the Triumph Mayflower. Or if you saw something else that caught your eye and you thought that was my favourite, let me know in the comment section below. But until next weekend when we meet again, probably for a bit of tinkering and a bit of reviewing, take care and drive safely.